I really don't want to make this video, but it has become apparent that
Good afternoon, ladies and gentle spoons. Hope we're all doing well. So, I know Michelle won't mind me piggybacking on this video, and for full context and everything else, I would strongly recommend you go and watch the original video. Now, there has been an awful lot of bullshit over the last, 6 months now, within the men's space here on TikTok. It has been an absolute joke. Mind games left, right and centre. Hundreds of hours of character assassination lives, leading to the likes of Michelle questioning what she's doing, questioning herself. You know, is she a good advocate? Is she not a good advocate? Well, the fact that I've put my stake in the ground will probably suggest my feelings on that subject. As for the bulk of the context of, or the bulk of the content of her video, should I say, Brian was somebody whom I wanted to network with originally. Now, I didn't know the full ins and outs of what had gone on in the last couple of years involving Brian, because I wanted to try and gather together a large community of men's advocates so that we could get the message about the suffering of men and boys out to a wider audience. Now, some of you will know about me, a good deal probably more probably wouldn't. So, a brief introduction. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a men's rights advocate. I have been involved in the discussion around men's issues since about 2016. I have been aware of discrepancies in social narrative compared to what I was seeing my entire life. Now, I didn't just pop up on TikTok one day and decided I was a men's advocate. I was doing stuff in the real world, online, long before I came onto TikTok. You can go and watch my first video. I was talking about chivalry and the direct meaning of chivalry. That was my first video on TikTok, believe it or not. Quite a subject. So, I have petitioned governments to change laws. I have marched through the streets of London in protest at the suffering of men and boys and the fact that it is being ignored. I have networked with some of the most influential people within the men's movement on both sides of the Atlantic, and in fact down in Australia as well. So that's who I am. I am a men's advocate through and through. People like Brian are not. Now, Michelle has detailed the suffering that she has been through with him. I know Tammy has had her own issues, and others have had issues on either side of the fence. Now, Brian has, on multiple occasions, come to me saying he wants an apology for apparently calling him a predator or something. Well, he ain't getting it. I haven't apologised to him yet. I don't plan on doing so. When he shows me an ounce of character, and when he shows he is worthy of decency, I will treat him with decency. Until then, he can go away. And you can go and look at Michelle's video for the full context. This man has, he's tried to have a go at me, and it hasn't really worked. And there have been others that I admired and respected on this app that have aligned themselves with Brian and with other people that Brian knows. They may also go forth and multiply. I'll leave you to figure out what that one means. I have no time nor interest in any more of this bullshit. any more of this nonsense, infighting, backbiting and everything else. No time for it. The issues facing men and boys are far too important. There are people that I have met on this app, men, who are suffering greatly. There is someone on this app, down under, older than I am, and every time I hear him speak, he is highly emotive, and I would say in need of reassurance that his presence is very much beneficial to the world around him. Not just to us on the internet, but people he knows in real life as well. It is men like that I advocate for. Men that have been to hell and back, to the point that you can smell the sulphur on them. Those are the men I advocate for. Those are the men I invite to my lives, even when I'm debating with moronic feminists, of which there are plenty, who like to use biased sources, and then, you know, it's the old game of playing chess with a pigeon. All that's going to happen is they're going to take a dump on the board, kick all the pieces over and strut away like they won. We've had that before. There are many men on this app, in real life, that you will come into contact with every day of your own lives, who are suffering in some way, shape or form. And for the likes of Brian to use that to gain some kind of legitimacy is pretty darn awful, to be quite honest with you. Now, obviously, I am going to reiterate one of the many things that Michelle said. Do not go after Brian. Anybody. If there is anybody that follows me and I find out that you have gone after Brian, then you and I will be done. I don't go in for that kind of thing. Even when I vehemently disagree with someone and things sometimes get a little bit personal, you do not go after anybody. Something will be said in the heat of the moment, it stays in the heat of the moment as far as I am concerned. And that's the end of the matter. So for Brian, his flying monkeys, the people he has allied himself with, leave this movement. It is too important for people like you. Go away. We don't need you here. There are far too many good men out there that are suffering far too much for our time to be continually taken up by you and your ilk. And there are others I could refer to, but I'm not going to, because they are not the core subjects of this conversation. As far as I'm concerned, this is now done. It is finished. We are about a month out from International Men's Day, and if people don't mind, I would like to get around to planning something for that day, so that we can do something important, worthwhile, right, by those men that are suffering, on their behalf, telling their stories, and getting it known that things need to change. And that, I'm afraid, guys, is about all I've got. If I'm sounding angry, I've been pretty pissed off with the whole thing, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's just my 2 pennies worth, as it were.